Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tommy Elliott. I'm your mayor here in Acworth, Georgia. I'm proud to be your mayor here. It is my honor to welcome you today to our annual Veterans Day celebration. We're here at Patriotis Point, a very special place to all of us, a place that we gather like today and make sure that we honor and celebrate our veterans and our veteran service. Thank you all for coming. I want to take an opportunity to recognize and on behalf of our elected team, recognize Gene Pugliese and Butch Price that are on our city team, and all of our city team members that are scattered all throughout the day that have worked hard to be able to put this together. Jeff Chase, thank you very much. Great job today. And I want to also take an opportunity to thank our Patriot Point partners. You know, in 2005, we built this Patriotis Point. We worked with the Corps of Engineers, and we were able to get them to allow us to build this great memorial right here. And then as a community, we got together and we raised the money necessary to be able to build this great memorial. And now it is a very special place to us. It is a place that we call, some of us call this hallowed ground. We're so glad that you're here today. I want to take a minute and thank our partners. There was an original group, the Acworth Veterans Advisory Committee. Lieutenant Colonel Doug McKittrick is with us today. Lieutenant Colonel Jim Payne, Chief Petty Officer Ron Paplioni was on that committee. Chief Master Sergeant Dallas Godfrey with us today. Dallas. Our Senior Master Sergeant David Jones, Chief Warrant Officer Brett Kaufman, and Captain Ed Setzler, U.S. Army. We're glad to have you here today. Once again, I've introduced our board members, but I also want to recognize and also tell you that Brett North and Tim Richardson and Tim Houston also send their congratulations to all of our veterans today. Our county commissioners were a very important part of our putting this special place together. State Representative Ed Setzler serving as a state representative serving us here. U.S. Army Captain and Acworth Lake Authority, Steve Prather, Drew Arnold, Dennis Barnett, and Scott Freestein. Thank you so much to all of our partners. And then our partners that come together to actually make this presentation to you today. I want to take a moment to thank our North Cobb Christian School with the leadership there. Amy Wallace, Craig Godfrey, Debbie Brink, our Mastery Orchestra, and our Academy Singers. Our color guard today, that is our great partners from Post 304. Academy Singers again. Bob Weatherford, Director of the American Legion 304 Post Riders. And Todd Lawless today will do our invocation He is the operations pastor for Freedom Church. So with that, we'll begin with our color guard, American Post 304 service.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Join me in the pledge of allegiance, please.
Let us pray together. God, we're so grateful for the opportunity to be here today. God, I thank you for each person that's here. God, I thank you for this beautiful weather you've given us. And God, we just thank you for the opportunity to stop and to pause and just thank you for our veterans today. God, as I was reading in your word this weekend, and I came across a verse that said, I thank God upon every remembrance of you. God, I know that the people here would say that whenever we think about veterans, God, we're so grateful. And we're grateful for the sacrifices they made. God, we're grateful for the time they spent defending our country and defending our freedom. And God, we're grateful for every opportunity that they take. And God, just the sacrifices they made in those moments. And God, I just pray, Lord, that today you just continue to bless this ceremony. God, I pray that you would bless those that serve, bless their family. And God, just let them know today that, God, that we do love them and we are grateful for them. In your name I pray. Amen. Today, and you may have a seat. Today I'd like to take just an opportunity to introduce our speaker today, who is a friend of mine. And so today I'd like to introduce our speaker, Tommy.
Well done. In Acworth, Georgia, we love our veterans. I want to thank you for your service and the opportunity to be able to celebrate with all of you today on this Veterans Day. You are our heroes. For the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you what it means to be the son, the daughter, the wife, the husband, the dad, the mom, the brother, the sister, the grandchild, and the friend of a veteran who has served our country. I want to share with you what it means to have you in our life and how you have impacted our life. The where, the when, and the how you served, the where you served, the when you served, and the how you served have all created individual stories that belong to you, and they're your stories. And from those individual stories, we've learned some really important lessons, those of us that have veteran family members and friends in our life. You've taught us lessons that really have become part of our life. In our lifetime, many of us have lived through 14 different wars and mobilized conflicts, beginning with World War II, the Korean War, Lebanon, Vietnam, Grenada, Iran, Panama, the Gulf War, Somalia, Bosnia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Libya, and Syria. All places in the world where our men and women in the armed forces have been placed into harm's way, serving our nation, and individually, in many ways, serving us to defend the freedoms that we have today. All of you, plus every man and woman who has served in our military, are our veteran heroes. Thank you for your service. Your service inspires us because of your love for our country, for your commitment to protect our freedom. Our flag, every time we look at that flag, is a symbol of your courage and bravery, and the courage and bravery for every veteran, past, present, and future. In our family, my wife Carol and myself had fathers that both served in World War II. I'm the son of a World War II veteran. My dad's service has given me a very strong patriotic perspective in my life. It's taken me a lifetime to really kind of understand my dad's service because of the different lessons that I learned throughout my life about his service. As a veteran, you make a commitment to serve our country and to keep us free. You know, all of us, we all know that freedom is not free. And I think for each one of us, myself especially, that there are moments in life when we realize that the men and women that are serving in the military, you folks that are here today, all of you veterans, that you do so with personal sacrifice, risk of life, and a commitment to the unknown. Many have given their life in service to our country and on our behalf. In John 15:13, John writes, he says, "There's no greater love than for a man to lay down his life for another." The impact of every veteran's service to the people of our nation is profound and life-changing. So we're here today to create the opportunity to celebrate all the veteran heroes in our lives. And ladies and gentlemen, it's not missed by me the fact that without your service and the service of those before you, we most likely would not be standing here living in this great community we call Acworth, Georgia. We celebrate all of you that are here, and we celebrate all of you and our past veterans, those veterans that we love so much, that have gone to heaven. My dad is one of those veterans who has gone to heaven. For most of my life, growing up, I never really heard much about his service. I would ask him questions, and I knew generally he was in the Navy, he was in World War II, but I really didn't know what he had done. My dad would always say when I would ask him, he says, "Well, son, during those years in World War II, everybody signed up. It's just what you did for the country. You signed up, you went and served, you came home, you started a family, and that's how we define the greatest generation ever." See, they came home because they had all had harm's way experiences. They never talked about it. They never talked about it. But there is the rest of the story about my dad. There was a very important rest of the story that I did not learn about my dad till the sunset of my dad's life. You see, my dad's story begins early on the morning of June 6, 1944. It was Operation Overlord. It was the Normandy D-Day invasion, the largest scaled Allied invasion in the history of our country and maybe the world. The invasion had an assault on 6 different beaches on the Normandy beachhead in France. The British, they launched and they landed on Sword and Gold Beach. The Canadians on Juno. The Americans, Point de Hoc, Utah, and Omaha. Ensign James L. Alligood, my dad, was on the first wave of the amphibious assault on Omaha Beach. And I'm going to let my dad share with you the rest of his story.
When the Japs bombed Pearl Harbor, December 41, and everybody was up. The next day, Roosevelt says, we're going to war. I got out of Auburn in December of 43 on the speed-up program. And then I went up to Columbia University to midshipman school. And I was up there from January until June 1943. Then I was commissioned ensign. Our boats, the Phase 32 crews pretty much stayed together in training all the way through that. We were trained for the invasion, and we didn't know it at the time, but that was the deal. So the chorus time, they went into what was a big auditorium, and they turned the lights on, and there was a big mock-up down there of Omaha Beach, and they told us, they had all these intelligence officers giving us the story, telling us what we could expect. The one thing they told us that always stood out in my mind, you're not going to have to worry about one thing. He says, when you get there, there's not going to be anything that will be alive on that beach, because we're going to shut it for over an hour and a half. I said, you don't have to worry about anything. Well, that was not true. We started worrying about it 200 yards out, because that's when they started picking up. We started picking up the fire. We got up, got down to the line of departure, and then we shoved off. But then it was getting light, getting real light, and so then the flag comes down, and all the 32 boats take off at one time heading to the beach. Well, these guys there was Navy SEALs, and Army combat engineers and Rangers in this group, and these guys were really tough. Then we started picking up fire about maybe a couple of 100 yards off. And then the closer we got, we started picking up a lot of fire. And so we hit the beach and dropped the ramp. And the first 2 guys that got out of my boat, they fell right there in the dirt. Both of them died right there, hit. And then we couldn't get the rest of the men that wouldn't get out of the boat. And I was at there. I told them, I said, you're going to have to get out. We're going to all die right here. I said, as soon as that 88 hits this tetratol, we're just going to go up in a puff of smoke. And finally, a chief petty officer stepped forward. He said, come on, let's go. And then when they did, they pulled that raft out of there with all those explosives. But and then we backed the boat out, and then I went back and got more men and brought them back in. But I never saw those guys again. But I understand they had something like 50% casualty. They didn't get any of the boat beaches blown. The one thing that really makes you proud is this national cemetery it's Coble Severe. It overlooks Omaha Beach. Now, we've been back over there 3 times to that cemetery, to that Omaha Beach and cemetery. And it really makes you proud to be an American. And it's just so quiet and so serene. I've never felt, been anywhere that I felt as emotional as I did just looking at it over there. it means more than anything. It means sacrifice that people have made for us to live the way we live in this country. Yeah. And a lot of people had to die for that. That's what it means to me. And I honor it, and I want everybody else to honor it.
Several years ago, after my dad was gone, my wife Carol, my sister, my brother-in-law, and myself decided that we would trace my dad's steps for the D-Day invasion. We traveled to Weymouth, England, where his training started, and then we went from Weymouth to Dartmouth, where the U.S. British Naval College is located. That's where they train these Navy guys that man these landing crafts, and that's where they specifically were located there to be able to train for the invasion. We then crossed the English Channel to Cherbourg, France, traveled to Normandy beaches, and on the way we stopped at St. Mary Glees at the church where John Steele, Ranger John Steele, was caught on that on the steeple right there at St. Mary Glees, and today they have a replica of John Steele. And when you look up there, you realize as he hung up there for several days, the Germans thought he was dead. It's an extraordinary feat. Then on to Omaha Beach, stopping at Cauble Cemetery. As we got out that morning, we had to walk through the cemetery to get to the beach, and so we started our walk down through the beach, walking through the cemetery. We were walking slowly, and even slowed down even more. It's almost reverently, looking at the granite markers as we went. And as I would look on the markers, all the dates were about the same. The time that those young men and women were here on this earth were all about the same. They were all so young. I had to fight the tears back. It was so overwhelming. And then, through the cemetery, we're standing on the cliff overlooking the beach. And from the cliff, all the way across the beach to the water's edge, it is a very long way. We're looking at the English Channel. But we're also standing where the Germans fired and killed our soldiers. We're standing right there. It was so overwhelming, and there was such a sense of an unfair advantage that the Germans had sitting up on that cliff looking down over that beach. That particular morning, the tide was out, and it was a long walk across the beach, and I got to the water's edge where the water met the beach, where my dad delivered that first wave of soldiers to the beach that morning. It was one of the most emotionally moving moments of my life. It was surreal. My dad had actually been on this beach 70 years before I was standing there. As I look back toward the cliffs, it was so easy to now see what those soldiers saw. The mortal challenges that our soldiers faced as they were crossing that beach that morning. Dad went back and brought 2, 3, 4 more landing groups of soldiers. As I was standing there, I was wondering, I said, you know, the second group and the third group, as that landing craft came, if you've ever been in one of those landing crafts and that gate went down in the front, what they must have seen. The firing, just the nonstop firing from the Germans. What they felt when they jumped out of that landing craft, off that gate, into the water, and began this run across the beach, a run for their life. 4,000 soldiers died on that particular beach that morning, that very beach. Many of them are buried up on the cliffs at Cauble-sur-Mer. Cauble-sur-Mer Cemetery is a 172-acre memorial. It's one of 14 American World War II cemeteries that are constructed on foreign soil. In the center is a memorial of a bronze statue which represents the spirit of American youth rising from the waves. 9,000 387 soldiers are buried in that cemetery. 4 are women, 307 are unknown soldiers. It wasn't till the moment that I stood on the beach that morning that I realized the profound impact of the rest of my dad's story. A story that he carried with him for a lifetime. Thank goodness he shared it with us. But also a story that brings me back to Omaha Beach on that morning so that I could see and feel the bravery that my dad must have shown that morning. But also, there's another part to the story. The bravery, the courage, and the sacrifice that those soldiers, as they crossed that beach this morning with challenges that were just so much against them, each one of them. I am so proud of my dad. He has given me a sense of patriotism that if it was not for his story and standing on the beach that morning, I don't think I would really understand. Final thought came to me as I was started across back the beach toward the cliffs. As I was walking, I remembered my dad's story that you have heard today. The story about the explosives that were on the boat and how if one of those German bullets had found its way to that Tetratol, all of those explosives, then my dad would have gone up in a puff of smoke. And you know what? I wouldn't be standing on that beach. Our dads waited a lifetime to tell us about these moments in their life. Carol and I are children of World War II veteran fathers, veteran heroes. That walk on Omaha Beach that morning changed everything for me. Changed everything. But now my dad was gone, I couldn't tell him how much I really wanted to thank him and love him, and tell him how brave I thought he was. This is only one place at one moment in history of all the wars, all the conflicts in all of history. One moment, one morning on Omaha Beach. Every veteran that's here today and every veteran that has served, past, present, and future, you all volunteered for harm's way. Some of you were in harm's way, some of you weren't, but you volunteered for that. You made a commitment to the unknown. There are many of us here that have veteran family members. And I'd like to take just a minute and share with you what it means to some of my friends and some others to have veteran family members. North Star Church, my good friend Bonnie Hoover, says, my granddad was Airman Jim Free. He served in the Army Air Corps, was shot down in Germany in 1942. My granddad makes me so proud because he never considered himself a hero. He always said, it's just what you did if you were an American. My granddad served our country in the Air Force, and in a Nazi prison camp. My granddad makes me feel like I have an incredible heritage to pass along to my children. Community volunteer Miranda Sanders, mother of Corporal Devin Sanders, U.S. Marine Corps. Being the mother of someone who is serving in our armed forces makes me feel such a great sense of pride. Even though not at war, I am thankful for the fact that he is serving and he is sacrificing his freedom to serve. It is so humbling to me. Becky Greenlee, wife of U.S. Coast Guard Captain Chuck Pope. Becky says that after all the years, I watched Chuck and his Coast Guard friends who are his friends for life. No doubt his positive and encouraging leadership had a big impact on their life. But during all of our separations and hardships, they were all worth it to me because my husband loved serving this country, and he is still serving today at the American Legion Post in his retirement. Our City Parks team leader, Jeff Chase, says, my father served in the Army in Vietnam and recently passed away. It was not until I was a young adult that my dad began to share his story about the time that he was in the Army in Vietnam. As I grow older, I began to understand the personal sacrifice that my dad made for his country. My dad leaves his family, his new bride, his new son, that was me, and travels halfway around the world to Vietnam. When he returned home, no one thanked him for his service. Understanding his personal sacrifice has given me an appreciation about the sacrifice that every man and woman who serves this country has. I miss my dad. My wife, Carol, says, my dad, William Goodwin, served in the Pacific as a pilot in World War II. And my brother, Roy Goodwin, a career soldier in the armed forces, retired as an Air Force general. He raised two sons. My nephew Ron and Jack also served as pilots in the Air Force. And my nephew Ron has a son named Tyler, who now is serving in the Air Force as a medical doctor. That's 4 generations of service to this country. I'm proud of my family legacy and my service that my dad, my brother, my nephews, and my grandnephew have given to this country. North Cobb Christian's Renee Dennis. As a Gold Star mother, I understand sacrifice. I am so grateful for the sacrifices of every veteran, because I know with all my heart there is a cost for our freedom. My son Jacob gave his life in Afghanistan in the service of our nation, and I think about his sacrifice every day. I am thankful that our Heavenly Father understands Jacob's sacrifice. There are many meaningful lessons that we could all share about the veterans in our lives. As a son, as a daughter, a mom, a dad, a sister, we all have these wonderful stories. And those stories that have now become important lessons to us. And there's something about the lessons that we have all learned. See, there's a common thread to these lessons that we all share in common. Because they're lessons about a family legacy that our veterans leave behind for us. There's lessons about the heritage that we want to pass along to our children. The lessons about sacrifice, personal sacrifice. Lessons about service. Lessons about courage and bravery. Those lessons that I learned on Omaha Beach that morning. And then, the big one for me, patriotism. Patriotism. Understanding patriotism. Understanding what it means to love our country, love our flag, and love our veterans. Today we celebrate all the veterans in our life. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your service. Thank you for protecting our freedom. So what it means to me to have a father that's a World War II veteran makes me really proud to be an American. May God bless each one of you, and God bless all of our veterans, past, present, and future. And may God bless our nation. Thank you very much.
Please stand as you hear your branches song.
Songs
at Veterans Day, this time of the year, on this day, and also as we do on Memorial Day, we are going to dedicate 2 papers today. And I don't know if anybody from the Rowe family is here. Our speaker on Memorial Day weekend was Captain Donna Rowe. If you were here, she was U.S. Army stationed in Vietnam. And so we're going to dedicate Captain Donna Rowe's paper today, also her husband, Colonel Al Rowe. So those papers we do hereby dedicate to this special place we call Patriotis Point. As we get ready to close, I'd like to ask everyone to stand. We're going to sing America the Beautiful, and when we finish, when our North Cobb Christian choir finishes, we will have a short comment, a closing comment, and then you will be dismissed.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Crown thy good from sea to shining sea, shining sea.
Patriotism. It's a love for our country. We love our veterans, and we thank you all for your service. God bless you all. Thanks for coming.